All right. Thank you so much, Pontus. Thank you everyone for coming and tuning in to our webinar today. So good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. As Pontus said, my name is Ellen Franzenberg. I am the Director of Awards and Lectures at the World Food Prize Foundation. I'm going to throw my contact information up on the screen here so that you can use that to contact me. If after the webinar you come up with any questions or anything like that, need any assistance, go ahead and send me an email or call me, and I'll be happy to help you with that. But I'm going to go through our nominations how-to webinar here, and then at the end you can definitely unmute yourself and ask questions. So the World Food Prize was founded by Dr. Norman E. Borlaug, who I'm sure for this group needs no introduction, but he is widely known as sort of the father of the Green Revolution. He received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1970, and after he received the Peace Prize, he asked the Nobel Committee if they would make a prize for agriculture. And the Nobel Committee said, well, it's not part of Alfred Nobel's will, so we can't do that. But Dr. Borlaug felt very strongly that we needed to recognize great achievements in food and agriculture. So he founded the World Food Prize as the premier global prize for food and agriculture. This is the World Food Prize statuette you see here. It is a $250,000 award given annually to a specific, exceptionally significant individual achievement that advances human development with a demonstrable increase in the quantity, quality, availability of, or access to food. So there is a lot that goes into that description. There are a lot of different laureates that we've had over the years that are in many different fields of food and agriculture, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of that as we go through the webinar today. So the Laureate Awards ceremony, some of you may have actually been to it or seen the recording of it online, is held here where I am in Des Moines, Iowa. And it is held in our beautiful Iowa State Capitol building. And we usually, in a normal year, would have hundreds of people that would join us for the award ceremony. And hopefully we will have a nice group of people again this year who will come to the ceremony, and hopefully we're able to have all of that in person this year again. So we've had 51 laureates from 21 different countries all over the world. This just gives you an idea of the spread of our global reach. It is truly a global prize. So I am going to go through our criteria, and then after that, we'll talk about the documentation requirements for a nomination for the World Food Prize. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the submission process and the selection process after that. So we'll start with our criteria for a nominee. So the nominee must have an achievement that increases the quality, quantity, or availability of food. And it can be at any point in the food system. So we've had laureates before that are in plant science or animal science or the physical sciences like soil or water, natural resource management. But we also have laureates that were in the social sciences, in policy, or in nutrition, public health, in economics, humanitarian leadership as well. So there's a broad range that can be considered for the World Food Prize. So we're looking for an impact that is global, regional, or national. So an impact that is pretty far reaching. And we're also, the World Food Prize is also intended to be awarded to one individual who is living and in good health. In some cases, we know that this is a collaborative world nowadays. So there may be more than one person who collaborated on a particular achievement. And in that case, you may wish to include more than one individual in the nomination. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So criteria for a nominator. So any organization may nominate an individual for the World Food Prize. So this could be an academic or research institution, public or private organization, government unit, or a corporate entity. The nomination does need to be submitted through an organization, and it must be endorsed by a senior official of the nominating organization. So the CEO or the director or president or chair or someone high up in the organization. And this person would do that by submitting a letter of endorsement that certifies that the information in the nomination is correct and accurate. So there's a lot of documentation that we ask for a nomination. So I'm going to go through that now. The basic information that we need for a nomination is the nominator's contact information, so the organization and the senior official who is endorsing the nomination. We also need contact information and biographical information about the nominee. So we'll ask for a CV and photo, as well as contact information, other information like that. And we're also asking for a synopsis, which is about just one paragraph that is basically the elevator pitch for why this nominee is deserving of the World Food Prize. So in just one paragraph, a description of their achievement. So you'll get to go into much more detail than just the synopsis in the statements of achievement and the statement of impact. So in the statement of achievement, it's 2 pages, and this is going to detail the nominee's achievement. So what did the nominee do? What actions did they take to bring about this achievement? So it's good to always include numbers or figures to illustrate the achievement. And you want to make this statement of achievement about the nominee. So sometimes a nominee is the founder of an organization, or the nominee may be the leader on a project. And so it can be tempting to talk more about the organization or about the project. But really you want to focus on the nominee and their achievements in getting that organization started or getting that project off the ground. What exactly did they do to make this such the success that it was? The statement of impact is a separate statement. So again, 2 pages, and this is going to focus more on the impact of the nominee's actions. So this is, again, a place where you would want to include lots of numbers and figures. This is going to be a different kind of number depending on what exactly the achievement is. It's difficult to give examples because we have such a broad range of fields. So in one field, the data that you might present to support the case for your nominee is going to look different for a nominee in a completely different field. So whatever makes sense for presenting the case for why the nominee should be considered for the World Food Prize and what kind of impact that they had. So some of the questions that you can consider when you're writing the statement of impact is, how was food quantity, quality, or availability impacted as a result of the nominee's achievement? How was poverty or hunger reduced? How was health, nutrition, or quality of life enhanced? Who was impacted? What region of the world was impacted? And what kind of change was experienced? We also ask for letters of support for the nominee. So we want one endorsement letter from the senior official of the nominating organization. that endorses the nomination and also certifies that the information in the nomination is accurate. And then we also ask for 2 seconding letters from people who are not directly affiliated with the nominating organization, but people who have a good idea and who are knowledgeable about the work of the nominee. So we want these letters to be on letterhead if at all possible, also signed, dated, include the writer's position and organization, and then letters should ideally include additional information about the nominee's work or the connection that the writer has to the nominee. So additional documents are optional. We give you the option to submit other documents that can support the nomination for this individual. So some of these additional documents might be articles about the nominee's achievement or impact, or publications by or about the nominee, additional seconding letters if you have more than 2, or links to videos of presentations or maybe news stories that are by or about the nominee. There are also plenty of other options to include here as part of the additional documentation. They do all need to be digital because you will submit all of the documentation online. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through the submission process. Once you have your documentation ready to go, you'll go to our website. You see down at the bottom of the screen, worldfoodprize.org/nominate. That is where you will find a link to our submission portal, which is called Reviewer. And the Reviewer software will ask you to create a password and create a nomination with that password. And when you log in, you can make changes to your nomination. You can upload documents, you can save your progress, you can log out and then log back in again and continue with the nomination, with putting the nomination together. So you can, save your progress and come back to it. So you don't have to do it all in one go. The form on Reviewer is going to ask you to upload all of the documents separately. So the statement of achievement will be separate from the statement of impact as a separate file. Same thing with all the letters. The letters will be separate files, the CV, photo, all of those documents that we were talking about can be uploaded as separate files. So you won't have to put them all together in one document or in one folder. When you are finished uploading all of the documents and filling out the information, you'll want to click Submit to make sure that the nomination actually is submitted and gets to us. All right. So now I'm going to go through a little bit about our nomination process. So our deadline to submit a nomination is May 1st. So with that deadline, I know that we've just gone through a lot of information and we're asking for a lot of information for the nomination. So if you find that you're having difficulty getting all of your materials together by May 1st, send me an email, let me know what's going on. I can give you an extension to the deadline should you need it. So just let me know what issues you're having. Then at the end of the year, the selection committee will choose a recipient, and the Council of Advisors, our advisory council here at the World Food Prize, will ratify the selection that the selection committee chose. And then early on next year, the recipient will be notified that they have won. And then in May of 2023, we will have the announcement of the World Food Prize laureate. And then in October of 2023 will be the actual award ceremony. So it's kind of an extended nomination process. The nominations that we receive this year will actually be considered for next year's World Food Prize. The good news is that after you go through all of the work to put this nomination together and going through the extended nomination process, all nominations are eligible for 3 years after they're submitted. So you don't have to update your nomination during that 3-year eligibility period. We do encourage updates because a lot of these nominees are active in their fields and progress continues to be made over every year. So we do allow updates within that 3-year period and encourage them, but you don't have to update your nomination for it to remain eligible for 3 years. After the 3-year eligibility is over, if the nomination has not yet been successful, you can renominate the same nominee. All right, so that is all of the information that I have for you today. I hope that everyone is planning on submitting a nomination. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to open it up for questions now here at the end of my presentation. But of course, if you have any questions beyond this, you can certainly contact me. We're also going to post the recording of this webinar on our website and on our YouTube page. So I'm throwing up my contact details again here so that you know how to contact me. And if you have any questions right now, I'm just going to go ahead and open up the floor for questions. Go ahead and unmute yourselves and just ask questions. That's fine with me.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks, Elena, for the great presentation on the nomination process. My name is Patricia Onyango, and I work in agricultural research with the Pan-Africa Bean Research Alliance here in Nairobi. So my question is about the submission. From the presentation, we see that there are a number of people who can endorse the nominee. So are they also going to send documentation around the nominee, or all the documentation comes from one?
Yes, so all of the documentation should come from one person or one contact. So the nominator, the nominating organization, will gather all of the materials together. So gather all the documentation together. Obviously, 2 of the letters have to come from outside the organization, but those 2 letter writers will send their letter to the nominating organization, to the nominator, and then they'll upload everything together.
Okay.
Hi, Ellen. This is Tejas here. Thank you for all the information you've provided so far. I just had one query. Who can nominate, in the sense that if I want to nominate the head of our organization, should it ideally come from the organization he works for, or do you prefer an external or an independent organization from the one which they are not part of?
That's a great question. The nominees organization can, the nominating organization can be affiliated with the nominee. So the nominee can be nominated by their own organization, but the senior official who endorses the nomination should really be more senior than the nominee in this instance. So they should, if the nominee is the head of the organization, it's probably better if the nomination comes from a different organization, because there's probably not anybody more senior than the nominee in that organization, if that makes sense.
Got it. Thank you.
You can also put questions in the chat if you don't have a mic or if you don't want to unmute yourself. All right. Well, it sounds like that may be it for questions. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Again, my contact information is up on the screen. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions after this webinar ends. And if you want to rewatch this webinar, we'll have it up on our YouTube page later on. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, everyone.